Creative Katie, Karen Burchill here. Welcome to my channel, Mixed Media Creations. Follow me on all my social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, WordPress, and Pinterest. Do a search for Creative Katie in any one of these and you're sure to find me. If you wish to support my channel, you can shop through my Amazon influencer links or make a direct donation through my PayPal link. Both can be found in the description box below. Thank you so much for your support. You can also support me by subscribing to my channel or sharing my channel with your creative friends. Hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner. New for 2019, I'm a brand ambassador for the Crafters Workshop. So exciting! Today we have a mixed media tutorial. I've called it Dragonfly Trio. So I'm starting with a 12 by 24 canvas. But that being said, you can do the same process on an art journal page or any substrate or surface that you choose. So I pulled out a bunch of collage papers, and when I pull out collage papers, I go for different weights. Some are on coffee filters, some are on deli paper, some are on copy paper. I'm also going to use some music pages. This I got from the local thrift store. Some pages are yellowed, and that will show through in your finished product, potentially. So you may want to make sure that you get some yellowed ones for that vintage look, or some white ones as well. It cost me all of $3 to get both of those books together. So I'm ripping off the edges. I don't like the straight edges, and I'm just laying the collage pieces in. I don't really have a design in mind. I want this texture, I want this patterning to be dispersed throughout the canvas. Now, one of the challenges that I have here is I want this canvas in the end to go in the other orientation, not the landscape one that you see here. So I keep off camera turning it and looking at it the other way. Some of the collage papers have more pattern, some are bolder, and it's good to get a mix of them. I even have some what I believe to be mulberry paper. It's very fibrous. That's what I was holding just there. Now I'm arranging these just to make it interesting till I like it. Now the truth of the matter is that some of this you're going to see in the end. Some of it you'll just get a hint of, and some, because you've layered maybe 3 pages on top of each other, is going to give some textural element. And I love, love, love adding texture, whether it's visual or physical. So collaging and layering your collage pieces is one way to get very subtle physical texture. Now I'm using the Crafters Workshop gel medium. It's a matte finish. I don't want shine at this point in time. And yes, some of the ways that I've laid the papers, the collage papers, it changes when I go to actually glue it down. And don't overthink that. You want some of the lights and the darks and the patterns throughout the canvas or your art journal page, but don't drive yourself crazy. Now the different weights of paper that I've used here also adds to the textural element. They all collage just a little bit differently. The deli paper tend to wrinkle up, which you can absolutely see in the finished project. Just have fun with it. And I'm bending the pages, the collage pieces, and gluing them down on the canvas. I really like developing my sides to match the background on the top. I think that really finishes the canvas. Now, if you're doing an art journal page or working on a canvas board, you really don't have that issue. I have sped up parts of this video. This right now is 4 times what it took to get it down, because there's a lot of repetition, and there are some parts of this video that I've done off camera because, again, it's very difficult to get it all in because it's such a large canvas. So once that's all dry, I grab my archival ink, and I've just grabbed the black, and I've grabbed my script stamp, and I am just putting some of the script on. Now, because I want to go upright with this, I am putting the script so that it will be the right way. Not extremely necessary, and in fact, you can go both ways and hedge your bets. And there I'm doing the sides. So whatever I do to the front, I'm going to do to the sides. I've grabbed my homemade stamps that I made with Fun Foam, and I'll put a link to that video. I love these stamps, and using the black ink, this really shines through in the finished background. And you want a combination of very faint and some that are darker, because again, that's going to give you the appearance of layers. Now, I'm going to be honest, at the beginning of this, I had an idea of what I was going to do on this background. And I'm going to tell you right now, it didn't involve dragonflies. So there was a change. And sometimes the canvas or the page, as you proceed, it evolves and it changes. Here's another dot stamp that I love. It's actually half of the stamp, and I love this dot in the background. Again, they tend, because they're so black right now, they show through all the layers that I'm going to be adding. So all the stamps that I'm using here, the script stamp, the dot stamp, and my homemade stamps, are all stamps that will work on any background. So this is a Crafter's Workshop stencil called Chicken Wire Reversed. It's stencil number TCW259. And I just got this stencil, and I'm putting some of the Crafter's Workshop modeling paste through this stencil. Now again, I want this texture. I'm not putting it too terribly thickly, so it's very fine, but it's more than what the collaged papers are. And I'm just kind of putting it on different places on the canvas. And sometimes you have to stop and wait for the modeling paste to dry before you put some more on. My goal here is not to cover the entire canvas or page, just to have bits of it here and there. Now, if you don't have modeling paste, you can use wall compound, which I prefer to mixing up your own. I've done both, and I prefer the wall compound to mixing up your own because, well, one, I don't like baby powder, the smell of baby powder. So once the gel medium is completely dry, I am taking my paints, and I have light blue permanent, yellow green, dioxazine purple, and phthalo green, which together make a navy, ultramarine blue, and I believe I may add Prussian blue, but I think I don't actually on this one, which is a rarity for me. And I'm wetting the paints, and I am just going to do some finger painting here. I find when I blend on the canvas or on the page, I get variations in color that I can't get with a paintbrush. So I'm working the paint into the two textural components on this canvas, the modeling paste and the layered papers, the collage papers. And I don't necessarily stick to one place at a time. You want the paint wet so that it blends together. And if it's getting too sticky, you need to add more water. And I have a spray bottle at the handy. Now, all these colors pretty much are going to play nicely together, which means if I mix them together, they're going to make another color that is going to look quite nice, except for the dioxazine purple and the yellow green. That kind of makes an uglier color. And if you mix colors that don't look good together, just grab the baby wipe and wipe it away before it dries. Or if you miss it, let it dry, and then you can put acrylic paint on top of it. Some I'm putting on more thickly, some I'm putting on thinner, and that's also building depth. I find adding the yellow green really makes the canvas. You need that light color, be it yellow or the yellow green. You want contrast. And remember, I want some of the elements, some of the stamping, some of the collage sheets to show through at the end. So I'm not going to put opaque paint or put layers of paint that are so heavy that it blocks that off. Now, working on a canvas, it has give. So you're pushing down, whether it's stamping or stenciling, that is something that you're going to have to compensate for. If you do on a canvas board, it's a solid surface or a cradled wood panel or an art journal page. The light blue permanent here is a more opaque paint than the other ones, which means it will block off more of what's underneath it than any of the others. And I just use that to my advantage. Again, I want darks and lights. I want places where it's more opaque blocking through and places where it's very translucent. All of those things add interest to your finished piece. Now you'll notice on the bottom left-hand corner here, where I have the stenciling with the modeling paste with the chicken wire reversed, the white is still showing up. Now I could have applied the paint so that that was completely covered, but I like that little bit of white showing through. One, it allows the textural element to show, and I like the white. And I'm just mixing the paints, dabbing my finger in some every once in a while, just washing my fingers, wiping them off. I'm not too particular. But I can tell you that right now, as I'm applying color to the collaged papers, the textural paste, I am quite happy with the color combinations, what's happening here. It's very soft and dreamy. And initially I said this was not going to be Dragonfly, so this wasn't going to be sky, although that's what it turned into. It was going to be water. So I just play around. If you don't paint with your fingers, give it a try. It's very freeing and you might actually like it. And remember, this isn't the finished stage. I intend to add more stamping, more stenciling, more elements on top of this. So while this, because this is a very analogous color grouping, all the colors are next to each other on the color wheel. If I was using different colors, it would look very patchy, but you're not stopping here. And I think that's what stops a lot of beginners and people is they get to a certain thing and they go, oh, this is the ugly stage. They all go through the ugly stage. So once that's dry, I have some of the navy that I mix by mixing dioxazine purple and phthalo green and white. Now I'm using the same stencil here, the chicken wire reversed, and I'm just adding it in places where the texture paste isn't. So we have the same pattern. One is textured and one is more flat. It gives a two different looks and it adds to the piece instead of adding a different stencil. And I'm adding white because the background got a little darker than what I wanted, and you want to build in contrast. So I can tell right now this stencil is going to be one of my favorites. It works great for putting texture paste through, and it is great for stenciling. So don't be surprised if you see this come up again for several backgrounds. Then I have this stencil, which is TCW 845. It is one of the new for 2019 stencils, and it's called Wisteria. Now again, at this time I'm thinking water, so I'm thinking seaweed. And I'm using the navy, the dark, and just putting this on. And I'm selecting the areas of the canvas that I put it on that are lighter, so the dark is going to show. So again, when you're using a stencil, you don't have to use it as the focal image that it is. You can use bits of it or to get a certain effect. But I like the patterning that it gives. It makes it very interesting, and I can use this, you know, if I was doing a garden piece or a water piece, flowers, pretty much anything. I think it's a very neutral stencil. And as you can see, usually off camera, I've done the sides the same way with the chicken wire reverse stencil, with the Wisteria stencil. I've stenciled the sides as well. And I am so pleased right now with this background. I am absolutely loving how it's turned out. How these new to me stencils are working out. Because you never know with a stencil until you start using it. So if you've got a stencil in your stash that you haven't used, dig it out, put paint through it, put modeling paste through it, see what it can do for you. Sometimes you're really surprised. Now I'm putting through with the light blue permanent, just adding a little bit of contrast. Then I grab the iridescent gold, the Crafters Workshop iridescent gold, and I'm going to do some stamping with the gold with this same stamp that I did earlier with the archival ink. So I'm repeating a pattern. And again, I'm thinking this is going to be water, so bubbles. There's a round-ish effect with the chicken wire reverse stencil, with the Wisteria one, and now this one. So I'm kind of repeating a circular round theme. And the gold really shows well. And since I planned on putting koi fish in here in orange and gold colors, that would have worked out perfectly well. But what do they say about the best laid plans? They don't always work. So this canvas sat unfinished for most of a week. And then I decided to nix my plan. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to put circles. When in doubt, put circles. I've done art journal pages with circles, but because of the size of this canvas, I needed larger ones. So I grabbed some lids from yogurt containers and the like that I keep in my stash, as well as my circle template. And I made some paper templates just out of copy paper. Now I'm going to take my Stabilo all pencil, and I had my blue one, and ended up grabbing my black because I wanted to be able to see it. And with the blue, I wouldn't be able to see it because in some places the background is quite dark. So leaving the paper templates in place because I like the composition, the layout that I have. I'm visual. I need to lay it out. I need to see where it's going. I can't just start tracing. So I take that step. The advantage is that if I decide I need to mask off these areas because I want to add something to the background, I have the masks already made. And they just go in my plastic folders in my big blue box. So I'm just going to trace all of these circles pretty much as you see here with the Stabilo all pencil. Now remember that the Stabilo all pencil is water activated. That's important, especially on a canvas which I know I'm going to end up varnishing. A little unsure where I want to put that one, so I'm going to trace some of the others first. So now I'm grabbing my angle brush, my Payne's Gray, my float medium, and I am going to do the floating acrylic technique to make these circles pop, to shade and to highlight. So I'm going in with the Payne's Gray. Now Payne's Gray is a bluish dark gray, and I'm using it instead of black because I thought the black would be a little too harsh. And I'm just applying the float medium on the one side of the brush with water and the paint on the other and getting it into the brush and then pressing it on the circle. So right now I'm going on the inside of the circle with the Payne's Gray. I may apply another layer to this to get it darker. I also go on the outside of the circle as well. Sometimes I do one, not the other. Sometimes I do both. This is a long process. I find it very relaxing and very zen. I put on my audiobook and I listen to it as I go. But here I might add this one and I might come back after it's dry and make it a little darker, a little pronounced. Or you can get a heat tool out. So I kind of jump from parts of the canvas. Now I don't film all of this because it really did take a couple of hours to do first the Payne's Gray on the inside, Payne's Gray on the outside, then I did shading or highlighting with white on the inside, and then I came back and I actually added more Prussian blue. You had to have it in here on the outside. Now I'm deciding which circle is going to overlap which circle. So I just grab a baby wipe and I get rid of the stabilo where I don't want it. And the reason I want one circle to appear over the other one, that just kind of it gives the impression that there are layers. So there is where I've done on the outside, and there I've only done on the inside. And you can see the difference. I wanted it to be a little bit bolder. I wanted the bubbles or the circles to stand out a little bit more. So that was my deciding factor. And this was a good shot because it showed you exactly what the difference is. And then I believe that's off camera where I added the Prussian blue to the outside. And that just married it a little bit with the blue in the background. And again, you may see me put one layer on. I may have come back and added more layers. And I'm turning this canvas constantly because it is so big. And I jump from one circle to the next another circle. I don't want to touch wet on wet. I don't want to do the small circle that's there until this one is dry. But I'm very happy with my choice to do circles here. Now once all this is dry, remember that Stabilo All pencil? It is water soluble, and I'm going to do some highlighting with white, and I don't want that white to turn gray. So I'm taking the baby wipe and very lightly pressing to get off the Stabilo All pencil. What I've put on with the floating acrylic is permanent. I've let this dry, maybe it was overnight, and I'm just removing the Stabilo All Pencil. Then I will go in and I'll add some more because some of it was dark because of the Stabilo All Pencil. So I'm going to add some more. Now these are dragonflies from this stencil Winged Mosaic, and that is TCW 656. And I did a stencil on copy paper of just the dragonfly, and I cut it out to make myself a template. So then I can put those dragonflies where I want them to figure out the composition. Then I've used masking tape and ripped it out, and I'm going to use this white pearl modeling paste from the Crafter's Workshop. And it has this white pearl shimmer to it. And I'm applying it with my favorite palette knife, and I'm applying it fairly thickly. I want this to be really texturized. I have the texture of the layered collage papers. I have the texture of the texture paste that I've used very thinly through the chicken wire reversed. And then I'm putting this on in yet a third level of texture, because I really want these dragonflies to pop. Now when you're putting on stencils and you have this on, you don't want to touch the other one and make a mess of it. So I end up doing the first two, the top and the bottom one, then I come back off camera and I put the middle one in once those others had dried. And then I let it dry overnight. Patience is